Welcome to another wonderful episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions podcast. And today we will be discussing the importance of progress, the importance of progressing, the importance of growing, essentially. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. This pretty much applies to every single realm of your life. So find out more about how progress can benefit you and how you can grow in every single aspect of your life, because these principles apply to pretty much everything. All right, guys, let's jump on in. Before we get started, one more thing. If you want to get any PE gear, be sure to check out TotalManShop.com. That is TotalManShop.com. And use the promo code MHS2020. Promo code is MHS2020 and get 12% off. Be sure to check out their wide variety of all kinds of good quality PE equipment. All right? And that's promo code MHS2020 for 12% off. And the website, once again, is TotalManShop.com. What is going on, gentlemen? Welcome to another episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions podcast. And today I want to touch on a subject that I had mentioned on the live that I've been talking to Dave, aka the Meditating Viking, who I will have on the show in the very, very near future. And what I had mentioned was the pillars of what I think are the most important things when it comes to masculinity. And one of those that I mentioned was progression. And I had a gentleman write to me more about that, and we kind of just talked about it and what it means. And obviously he understood what the word meant, but he kind of wanted to know more about how it really applies to, let's say, PE, right? Physical development and all these different things that I think are relevant, right? It's not always just about PE. It's about what makes us a man and what's important about us as men in this life to achieve progression and why it should never be neglected. So first off, I talked to him. I'm like, well, what kind of state are you in mentally, right? Because one of the things that keeps becoming a reoccurring theme is that a lot of guys, myself included, obviously we all feel a certain way at times, and that way may not be positive. But learning how to control your emotion means that we are able to develop our EQ, your emotional quotient, right? And what that means is that you're able to control your emotions. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about controlling them. And that's the one thing that I keep seeing more and more in our society is that it's telling us that we should feel a certain way. However, we should react a different way. What I mean is that they're basically telling us an oxymoronic approach to how we should be as men, right? We live in a day and age where everything else gets celebrated, but for some reason, dudes are just kind of being left at the wayside, right? And it's almost like, if you have, quote unquote, something that was viewed as different or something that just kind of made you what would be referred to as an oddball back in the day. And I don't say that in a derogatory term or any which way. I'm just saying that when people in society now see a strong masculine male, it's almost like it causes them fear. Like I joke around with a guy that I work with, and he's like, put your arms away. I am offended by that. Your big arms are making me feel small. How dare you? That's it. Put them away. I feel awful. And that's kind of where our society's at. For some reason, we cater and we pander to those who are, what I believe to be weak. The weak man has taken over, right? The man who is not progressing in this life has taken over. And he wants to basically bring us down to his level. And that's why I think it's important for you to know that in being a strong masculine man, one that brings, food to the table, the one that provides for his family, you got to progress as a man, right? So if you want to progress as a man, you need to realize that you are going to have to go through some growing pains. But it's something that Jordan Peterson talks about, all the time, is that every single time and every single story, that we see that has been passed on via verbal tradition, whether it's a spoken word, whether it's written, whether it's the movies that we watch, it's always, it tends to be a lot of the same thing. It's like, hey, you're not doing anything with your life. You got to do something, to which your hero wakes up, you know, and then he goes on and he goes on to achieve something. He slays the dragon, kills the beast, whatever the case may be. But he goes on and does something with his life. And I think that when you start to progress in whatever direction it is that you want, you will then get addicted to that feeling of, hey, this feels good to better myself in every aspect of my life. Right. And that's something that I think that it almost feels like they're trying to stunt that in men, like, oh, don't progress, just stay there. And you're awful. You're causing offenses left, right, and center. How dare you? And I think that approach, and honestly, the people that are trying to make this, I don't know why they keep really spewing out this trash rhetoric about how, if you're a strong man, all of a sudden that's offensive to everybody and their dog. It's all BS. What you should be doing is focusing on progressing every single day and bettering yourself in every single way. So now, one of the things that we talked about were methods that you can employ to make sure that you are progressing every single day, right? So first and foremost, go into what we talk about the most here on this podcast, PE, right? So that's penis enhancement, penis enlargement, male enhancement, better erections, all that jazz. So how would one go about to make yourself better? And what I always say, it's all about, reaching for that low hanging fruit. However, there will come a time where you will plateau and you will need to increase the workload, right? And when in increasing the workload, obviously your size will increase. The two go together. There's no escaping that, right? And one of the things that you can do is obviously you can increase the tension, you can increase the force, whatever it may be. If you're currently hanging at 5 pounds, hang at 6 pounds. If you're currently hanging at 6 pounds for 10 minutes, you're not comfortable going up in weight, then add another set, right? Do that. Add another set in there. Hang for another 10 minutes. When it comes to PE, it's all pretty much, it boils down to these two concepts when it comes to progressive overload. You can increase the tension or you can increase the time or the duration of whatever it is that you're doing. Mostly they're isometric holds versus something that's concentric. You're not really, you're not doing dick curls or any of that. You're not doing cock deadlifts, right? So what I mean to say is that these are the two major ways that you can increase the workload to continue to progress when it comes to PE, right? But let's go into something that's a little bit different. Let's talk about increasing your physical capacity, whatever that may be. So if you are a runner, right? And let's say you run for about 30 minutes every single day, maybe increase that by 5 minutes, then go to 40 minutes, then 45 minutes. If you're an endurance runner, of course. Granted, that being said, just a heads up, long durations of cardio have been found to actually bring down testosterone levels. So it's not the greatest in that sense. And the other thing that I was reading about too is that it can actually affect autophagy, where you start almost overworking it. Very interesting podcast I was listening to about a guy who was comparing the effects of fasting versus the effects of working out, and you can actually cause autophagy within the body by working out, which basically means that your cells renew themselves, which is cash money if you want to look good and feel good, right? And going back to physical development, same deal as PE. The building blocks are very, very similar. What you want to do here in this regard is find a way to increase either the time or the tension or both, so there are obviously tons of different modalities and exercise programs and different things that you can apply when developing the physical body, right? If I'm a sprinter, I'm not going to train like a cardio runner or an endurance runner, excuse me. Or if I'm a bodybuilder versus a powerlifter, I'm looking for two different ends, right? Different goals. However, usually you still have to find a way to progress unless you want to stay in the same boat forever, which I don't think any athlete that I've ever come across ever has, right? So what you got to do is find a way to increase the workload, and increasing the workload, that extra stress, that extra pain, whatever that's going to cause, that extra pressure, that's going to make you better, more skilled, and that's going to make you a better human being. And the reason why I say it makes you a better human being is that physical development, releases the endorphins, it rewires your brain, it helps you to actually go through this life knowing full well that, hey, you know what, if I was able to achieve that, what else can I achieve? And that's the one thing I always harp on. And I didn't get an argument. I kind of got in a dispute with the guy that was saying, hey, you know what, all your male enhancement rhetoric, man, I don't dig it. I think it's all BS, man. And I think you're a snake oil salesman. And I'm like, well, you know what? Usually I don't really bicker or banter with people on social media. Usually I'm just, I spread the message, whatever. And I kind of go about it talking about my experience. So I challenged this guy and I said, hey, man, you say that this stuff doesn't work, but this is my truth, bro. This is something that I've done for a long time and it has helped me to make gains. And he's like, well, you know what, you're just preying on men's self-confidence issues, and that's all that you're trying to do, blah blah blah. And I'm like, nah, bro. I'm like, if you're gonna come at me, you got to come at me correct. I'm like, you got to do your due diligence and see how many free things I have posted. I mean, pretty much everything that I do is free, brother. I'm sorry. The only thing I got is a book out and a couple affiliate links, right? And I would not ever promote something that I don't believe in, because if I'm not going to buy it, I would never tell anybody else to buy it. And I told this man that, and I showed him basically how PE works and how it's about progressive overload. Right at that point, this guy kind of calmed down a little bit, but he's like, well, PE still doesn't work. I'm like, nah, that's not the case, bro. I'm like, not the case at all. If that truly were the case, then why are there forums of thousands of men who have done this? Why is it that I talk to certain guys who have done it and have proved it on Twitter? Shouts out to Daniel from jelk2gain.com, right? Or even GB9. Jordan shows what he does on a regular basis and how he's making progress, right? These guys, they're all about laying it out full frontal, and I respect that. But what I'm trying to get at here is that the proof is here. It exists. The communities, the guys that I talk to on WhatsApp, and I show them, like, hey, man, this is the progression that I've made for myself. Here are the pictures. It's true. It's possible. However, it has taken me a long time to get here. And when I went back and I asked that guy that, the one thing that stuck out to me, right? Because like I said, he was like a skinny, really like decrepit looking guy. And he calls himself like an action life coach. And I look at this guy and I'm like, well, he doesn't look like he's alive. He looks like he's a step away from death. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, brother, what is your biggest physical development, right? And he told me, he's like, I don't train for aesthetics. I don't train for this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you, I want to know what your biggest physical development is, right? Because I remember last week where I was talking to Joe Templin about this, and I asked Joe point blank, I'm like, what did you learn from Taekwondo? What did that teach you? And he said the same thing that applies to every single concept when it comes to progression that I think everybody needs to pay attention to and come to the realization of. And he said, I got my ass kicked all the time. He's like, I was scrawny. I got my ass kicked. He's like, but getting my ass kicked, I had two choices. I could, just be a pussy and just take it and continue to be the punching bag for every other kid in the class, or I could man up. I could man up and learn how to deal with this pain, learn how to deal with this stress, and say, okay, I'm getting my ass kicked. What do I do now? And that's what's missing for so many dudes out there, like this guy. And when I kept asking him, he didn't have a response. He said he'd like to go hiking every now and again. I'm like, well, that's not really challenging yourself physically, nor are you progressing to anything, And, after I talked to him, he came to the realization, he's like, hey, man, I respect what you do. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. But what I cannot stand is the fact that people are coming at me or other guys in the PE community and say, oh man, you're a snake oil salesman, or you're just trying to do this. I'm like, no, 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 no. What you got to understand is that this is possible, but it's not magic. Believe you me, it is not magic. It takes time, right? It's kind of like same deal with bodybuilding at the gym, where people look at the guys online, they're like, oh, this guy, he's on steroids. They're all on steroids. I'm like, why do you think that everybody is on steroids? You know, and you work out what, 3 times a week, if that? And when you go to the gym, you do the elliptical and you train for 10 minutes, there is absolutely no challenge there. There is no progression there. The guy there, and I mean, I've seen people like this and I've talked to them, and I know that the number one thing that they are missing is the mindset. And I'm not saying that if you're skinny, you got the wrong mindset, because I know some skinny dudes who can whoop all kinds of ass, right? These guys, they train their bodies physically in different arenas, right? Like a guy that I know, he's thin, but he does Muay Thai and he can whoop some serious ass. He's got some shins that I'm like, bro, that those are weapons right there. That is pretty scary what this man can do, right? But what I'm getting at is that when you see a weak dude mentally, physically, we can sense it, right? And society may be saying, hey, this is the road we want you guys to go down. We want you to be a bunch of betas, bunch of beta cucks. And look at Harry Styles. Doesn't his dress look good? Or Young Thug. The people that they're putting out there. And the reason why I'm noticing this more and more is that I'm looking at modern society and I see what they're trying to show young boys is what is quote unquote cool, or what's going to attract the girls, or what's on Vogue. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, right? And they're also telling them, hey, it's okay, just stay home, jerk off, play Fortnite, and I let my son play Fortnite. However, I tell him like, yo, you got limited time to do this. You're not going to spend 6, 8, 10 hours to do this. No, 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 no. I mean, you got to enrich your mind with something good. Your mind is a garden, man. You got to feed it something good if you want to see something good come out of it, right? And so now I guess that leads me into the next part, mind, the brain. And when it comes to progression in that sense, like I talked about breath work, you want to oxygenate the brain, right? There's different ways that you can go about it. I like to just breathe in, hold, and breathe out. It's an old school technique. It's supposed to be 7 seconds for each one, right? And I mean, this goes hand in hand with meditation, right? And what this does is it allows you to be more mindful. In being more mindful, you can look at things and you almost take a step back. What it does is it helps to change your vantage point. In changing your vantage point, you can understand what's going on around you so much better, guys. Right. So let's say somebody comes at you, you're pissed off. At least you can take half a step back before you respond. And you respond, you don't react. Reaction is what a weak man does. Right. Perfect example of this. I work with a guy, right? And this guy, I honestly kind of feel sorry for, right? He's always going off, always going off. Like, he told me his marriage that he had, or the girlfriend that he had, was dysfunctional. The chick he picked up, I mean, everybody from everybody knew that she was all kinds of trouble. Everybody can see it from a mile away. And the term "you can't make a whole housewife" kind of applied to this guy, right? And I don't say that to be disrespectful. I'm saying that as a warning for other men too. Like, listen, if you know a chick is trouble, stay away. Do yourself a favor. The reason why I say that is a woman like that will stunt you from your progression in this life. A woman like that will keep you from reaching your true purpose, from ascending higher into doing something better with your life. And you cannot have that. You cannot afford that in this life. We got one life to live, right? So this guy, dysfunctional chick, he's always going off. And again, this boils down to the EQ, the emotional quotient. And what I see with this guy is like, he's not a dumb dude. However, he goes off, he gets all butt hurt. He's pissed off at the people he's supposed to be around with. And the worst part about this is that this guy's supposed to be a leader, right? They fired his friend, he starts crying. I'm like, this guy's up, he's down, he's all around. So what does he do? And the one thing I've kind of noticed about this man is that he likes to go home, take his trouble out on the weed, smoke all kinds of ganja to make him feel better. And I'm like, bro, instead of self-medicating, why don't you start self-educating, man? Like, learn something, like do a hobby. And he's not a dumb guy. Like, he's not a dumb guy at all. He's a very, very smart, lovable dude. However, I see that this dude is controlled by his emotions, which is why I digress and I go back to how important it is for us to be more mentally engaged in whatever it is that we're doing. And when we take a step back, you're able to see things from, you just get that mental clarity that allows you to really take on the situation with a better approach. And I think we're missing that. I think that all the TikTok, all the Pornhub, all the stuff that they're putting into our lives is meant to be a big distraction from us really developing ourselves and progressing as human beings, right? So I think all of that stuff is important. And for, many different guys, I say, hey, find that spiritual side inside of you, meditate, whatever it is that you're into, try to develop that. For myself, like I said, like I go about my spiritual side and that I pray every day. I give thanks to the good Lord for all that he's given me. And that's kind of my thing. And that's what I do. And, you know, I just kind of stick to that. I'm old school, man. I'm old school. But I think that everybody should find whatever fits, is best for them. I really think that we have to just engage ourselves from a truly holistic standpoint to develop ourselves and to progress as men, right? And again, guys, find something that's going to cause you to grow. Find something that's going to cause you to grow. If PE is your hobby, shoot, man, go all in. If bodybuilding is your hobby, go all in. If you want to develop yourself spiritually and you want to become a sage and whatever it is that you want to do, go all in. But just find something that causes or makes you, really ascend to that next level, right? This episode, more than anything, is just about how to find yourself, man, how to find yourself and to really start working on getting to that next level, right? But let me offer an action, a little action tidbit that you can apply to help with keeping you aligned with your goals. Something that I do, I think it's a great way to go about it. And it's really helped me, reach my goals. My goals started off small with this podcast, and honestly, they've skyrocketed. And all that is thanks to you guys. I would not be here. My website would not exist. All the support that I get from you guys, it's what motivates me to keep going. So with that being said, let's jump into the action item. So this is called the Tesla 369 method. You may have heard of it. There's different variations of it. I'm just going to tell you guys how I go about it. So what I did is I write down 3 goals that I have, but I write them in the present tense, right? So I write, I am 10% body fat, or whatever the case may be, right? Write down the other 2 goals. Usually it'll take you about 30 seconds to do all that. And so I'll start off with, my 3 goals, and I'll write that 6 times a day. And that's pretty much how I go about it. That's pretty much it. I just make sure that I write my 3 goals. I write my 3 goals at the beginning of the day, and then just kind of space it out 4 times throughout the day, and then one more time right before I go to sleep. So that way I can just keep my mind firmly on, what my goal is, and I can just remember what it is and just kind of go from there, man. And honestly, I've already done it twice, and I've had to switch up my goals as I've already reached them, right? So it's something that's really helped me. And yeah, it takes about 90 seconds to do, hence the 9, and 3 affirmations. And what is the other one? Oh, and you write it 6 times, right? So the 369 method. And that's pretty much it. That's what I do. That is what I do. And that's what's helped me to progress. It helps me to stay aligned with my goals and just to remember what they are. And just being conscious of what they are, guys, you'll find that it'll make a big difference as well. Because when you know what you want, you know where you're going. And when you know where you're going, hey, man, you're on the right track, which is just stage 1 for many guys, and myself included. I didn't really have that true purpose, which is something that I'll talk about in the next episode, until I really started writing down my goals. And I had to be free with myself and talk to myself like, hey, man, what do I really want out of this life? I'm a father now. I'm this, I got to take on more responsibility. What is it that I really want to get out of this life? And that's when I started to develop my own purpose. And when you start to progress, you'll find that you'll just keep getting closer and closer to that purpose, which honestly, guys, will give your life all kinds of meaning and it'll help you to move in the right direction. So, that being said, that is today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you progress towards your goals. Until the next episode, stay healthy and stay strong. And be careful. There's an Omicron thing going around. All right, guys, stay safe.